imagine this. A 6-pound baby over the course of about a month eats enough to weigh as much as a school bus. It sounds crazy, right? A 6-pound baby in a month eats so much, about 2,700 times its weight, that it's as big as a school bus a month later. That is exactly what this little guy does. And thousands like him or her. The caterpillar eating machine. We are talking pollinators over the next few weeks here at Gardens That Matter. I am Amy Landers with Gardens That Matter, where we help families create beautiful, bountiful gardens together. And we love to grow food gardens, vegetable gardens, fruit, food for us. But we also think it's really important to grow food for all kinds of animals and wildlife. And some of the most important animals in our garden are pollinators. And so this week and next week, we are going to do pollinator pairings. Each day, I'll bring you a pollinator and a plant that it goes with it, so that you start to get to know some of the things that might be living in your yard, or some things you can invite into your yard. And at the end, on June, oops, I should have looked at the date, 9th, I'm pretty sure it's June 9th, not this Friday, but next. Yeah, June 9th. At 9 p.m. Eastern, we are going to do a Gardening for Pollinators workshop. We are going to talk about how to create your own pollinator paradise. You are going to leave with a menu ready to feed the beautiful pollinators that come to your yard and care for them. So there's a link to that in the description. But let's jump into monarchs and milkweed, because this monarch caterpillar, well, starts off looking like this, and then it eats and eats and eats 2,700 times its weight. That is amazing. That is a 6-pound baby turning into a school bus in a month. It's crazy. Now, obviously, this is a much smaller scale. So these are some pictures from Fly Butterfly by Bonnie Bader, because I don't have any caterpillars that I can bring in to show you right now. But today I want to talk to you about monarchs and milkweed. Let's see. So let's look at what the caterpillar does. All right, so we start off as a tiny little egg. Like, this egg is probably the size of a pencil point, like a dot on your egg, under your leaf of milkweed. And then they eat through several instars. Then they're going to turn into that lovely J, and then turn into a chrysalis. There it is, turning into a chrysalis. And then, a couple weeks later, it'll hatch out into a beautiful adult butterfly. Here's a pair of them, a couple of them. These guys are on echinacea. Just gorgeous. This is from an old calendar. So monarchs are incredible, and I'm going to put a link in the description to this video to an article, like an epic article on our blog that is an interview with my friend Kim, who grows milkweed, and some mind-blowing facts about monarchs, and video of a monarch chrysalis that we have from last year that hatched, that it closed, it came out of its it came out of its chrysalis into the adult butterfly, and we captured it on video. So that's all in that epic blog post that you'll find a link to in the comments. I'll come back and add it. So monarchs and milkweed are this amazing pair because milkweed is the one and only food that a monarch caterpillar eats. Doesn't eat any other foods. But a lot of caterpillars are generalists. They'll eat a whole family of food, or they'll eat anything in the cabbage family, right? Or they'll eat some caterpillars can eat a lot of different foods. But a monarch has evolved to only eat milkweed. And it does this to its advantage, because milkweed, here's an example of a milkweed plant that I picked a few minutes ago. So this is, the genus is Asclepias. I practiced saying it multiple times. Latin names sometimes trip me up. You have to just say them with conviction. Asclepias. So Asclepias is the genus, and there are about 37 species in North America of Asclepias. So milkweed is, of course, its common name, and it's named for the milky sap, which is like has a latex kind of, let's see if I can get that to focus. You can see it coming out there, kind of dripping out the end. It's hard to get the camera to focus up close. But so this milky sap has toxins that don't bother the caterpillar, but if a bird eats this caterpillar that has only eaten milkweed, or the butterfly that has only eaten milkweed, it is going to be seriously ill. And so it will not eat caterpillars, monarch caterpillars, or butterflies after that. So some of these are toxic to us too. I think in general they're going to be super bitter, so you're not going to have to worry too much about people eating these because you're going to be really bitter because of the alkaloids in there. And then there are all these other animals that have adapted to either they also eat milkweed. There's a whole group of animals that eat, a whole group of insects that eat milkweed, and interestingly, they all have this bright orange warning coloration, like "Don't eat me, I taste terrible, I will make you ill." And then there's a whole group of animals that mimics those animals. So for the monarch butterfly, there's the viceroy butterfly, which is very similar in coloration and very easy to mistake for a monarch. And it's a great adaptation for the viceroy because even though it doesn't eat milkweed, it still is going to be something that animals avoid because of that warning coloration. All right, so milkweed is really great for the caterpillars, and it used to be really abundant, right? Milkweed, you might guess that it grows in abundance, like it's just kind of takes over. It was a common like weed on farms and in hedgerows, but not so much anymore. Because we've really gotten to where we're growing crops in like really big monocultures, we're killing all the weeds around our crops, especially if you're not growing organic. A lot of times they're spraying herbicides on any weed that's growing in your field. You end up with a lot less milkweed. In our yards, in our developed areas, we have less milkweed. So we have seen monarch populations decrease 80 to 90%, depending on the year and the counts. But they are definitely in crisis, and they may be an endangered species. It's up to the Fish and Wildlife Service to determine that. But this is why adding some milkweed to your yard can be really helpful, right? So do you have monarchs where you live? Do they pass through? Tell me about it in the comments. Do you grow milkweed? Do you see monarchs come through? Have you ever brought a caterpillar inside and raised it to be a chrysalis and then to watch it hatch and then to release it? Tell me in the comments. Even if you're watching this recording later, I would love to hear about it. All right, so if you want to grow milkweed, there's a couple of other things to know about this lovely plant, this group of plants. Most of them are perennial. There are a few annual ones that are going to be kind of more tropical, so they'll die back in the winter, and even some of the tropical ones can potentially come back from their roots, but some of them are more tender than others. So depending on where you live, what you need to do is find out which species of milkweed, Asclepias, work best for your region. And you want to find milkweed seeds for your ecoregion because those are the types of milkweed that the caterpillars that live in your region, as those monarchs migrate up from Mexico all the way up into Canada and then back down, there's multiple generations of monarchs happening during that migration, 3 to 4, sometimes 5. Generations of caterpillars. So each type of milkweed is going to be adapted to your region and grow well there and also be the best food for the monarchs when they arrive. So then once you have got it, you're going to have some beautiful, these are some flowers. This is a worksheet from a pollinator workshop I went to with Debbie Roos from the Extension Service the other day. It was a fabulous workshop. I'm like more excited about pollinators than ever. So in any case, you can see this one is pink swamp milkweed and this one is butterfly weed, right? So butterfly milkweed. And both of these work well in North Carolina, which is where I am. But in your region, there's going to be certain milkweeds that are going to be the best. So I will put a link to a milkweed finder. Actually, it's going to be in that Epic blog post. So in the Epic blog post that I'm going to put a link to in the description, at the very end are going to be resources and it'll include this milkweed finder. So you can find the milkweed for your region out of those 37 regions. Now, when you plant it in your yard, it is going to be weedy. It creates these beautiful seed heads, which I wish I had a picture of. I should have printed one off, but they have, it's like a spiky pod, and inside the pod are row upon row of little tiny brown seeds with a lovely little wisp on them. And so then that pod breaks open and those wisps are carried by the wind and the milkweed spreads. So it is potentially a spready plant. Sometimes that will matter. In my garden, that's a good thing. That's a positive thing to be a spready plant. But something you should know. Then you want to think about grouping them, because when the monarchs lay their eggs, they're going to fly from plant to plant. Generally they lay one egg per plant, so they'll fly from plant to plant to plant. So if you have a clump, that's going to be better for your monarchs. It also ends up being better when you have bees and other pollinators visiting. A nice clump of blooming plants means they have to use less energy to fly from place to place to place to collect that pollen and nectar. So it's going to be better for everybody. It's also just beautiful to have in your garden that way. When you have a nice clump, you can kind of pick different plants that go together or that have contrasting colors, and just have really nice presentation for yourself. So, all right, do you have questions about milkweed or monarchs? Be sure to check out that interview and the post that I'm going to add to the comments below. If you have questions, add those below. I will come back and take a look at this post and I will answer your questions if I can. And if you want to create your own pollinator paradise, please join me on June 9th for our workshop. I would love to see you then. Until tomorrow, happy gardening!